Good morning. Mark from Homans Associates here. I'm going to introduce the latest webcast from our friends at Housecall Pro. It's from last night, Thursday, April 23rd. The topic of the webcast is Sales Training 101. After the team at Housecall Pro goes through the latest news headlines, Brooks Pettis and Janelle Nappi will discuss the essentials of sales and how to build a winning sales training program. They'll include contractor pro tips and tricks that you should be using on your own business. As I mentioned before, this is a great time to work on your business and learn some of those new skills that will help push you forward as the work comes back. A great time to catch up on some of that stuff. Also, a really great way to do that is to check out the entire series of webcasts that we've got aimed at small businesses in the home services industry. Just check out the Homans Associates YouTube page. Go to YouTube, type in Homans Associates, subscribe to the channel. You'll have access to all of these videos and webcasts. Some great stuff in there. Every Tuesday through Friday, we'll blast out links to these videos on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, so you can check that out. And then, of course, it's on our website, homans.com/resources. All the links for the videos are there as well, so take a look at that, see what works for you. This is going to wrap up our second week of webcasts. Kind of crazy. We've already been doing it that long. So have a great weekend. Enjoy some time with your family, and we will see you next week. Now on to the webcast.
Welcome to tonight's show. My name is Alexa. I'm your head of online community here at Housecall Pro. I'm joined by my co-host Roland. He's the co-founder of Housecall, and Mel, who's our senior vice president of people. You can think of us as your in-house business marketing and HR strategy experts. Each evening at 5 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Thursday, we share the state of the world according to the home service industry, and we focus on one main topic or guest. So tonight's topic is Selling 101 with Brooks, Janelle, and Victor. So I'm going to introduce them in a little bit here after Mel does her state of the world. And then at the end of this broadcast, we're going to be talking about our all-star lineup for next week, again, Monday through Thursday. If you are wondering where to watch past episodes, this is now the end of 6 weeks together. You can go to our YouTube channel, so just look up Housecall Pro, and there's a whole coronavirus evening update playlist. And make sure you're in our Facebook group, the official coronavirus discussion for home service businesses. We have over 2,800 members in there now, which is so crazy to think about. And I know majority of you are, but if you're a new viewer, welcome. Make sure you join that group. That's where we can keep this conversation going. So right now I'm going to pass it over to Mel for your state of the world, and I'll be back with our special guest in a little bit.
Great, thank you. And good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We do come to you live from our homes here in Greater San Diego. We are all working from home as a non-essential service. We're not out there doing the work in people's homes, but we're hopefully empowering lots of you to be able to continue to do the work. So my name is Melina Fairley. I'm the Senior Vice President of People at Housecall Pro. Please feel free to call me Mel. By way of introduction, I'm not a reporter or a doctor. I'm a human resources professional. Been doing this sort of work for over 20 years. And personally, I'm a proud mom of 4. My kids are currently trying to teach themselves over the internet. They're in 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. So I'm just as busy as the rest of you with this whole new school from home world as well. I'm also a proud Marine Corps wife and a homeowner. So with that said, here's your evening update for Thursday, April 23rd, 2020. So every night we look at the Johns Hopkins dashboard to see what's going on in the world of coronavirus cases, new cases globally, as well as here in the US. So you can see that we're at over 2.7 million cases and over 190,000 deaths globally. And if you click into recovered, last I looked, we were at over 700,000 people have recovered globally. Here in the US, yeah, there you go. That's that green number. Green is good.
Green is good.
Green is good. In the US, cases are over 860,000, as you can see, with almost, we're nearing 50,000 deaths. And in that green recovered bucket, we were at about 80,000 last I had looked. There we go.
Yep.
80,000 recovered as of today. So based on the recent daily incidence trends, you can see that we are nearing 1 million cases. That is expected by the end of April. And we're certainly getting close, unfortunately, to a total of 50,000 deaths, which should happen. They're predicting that we'll hit that number tomorrow.
Yep. And daily cases here seems to be sort of leveling out, as you can kind of track and see this here.
Yeah, so there's been some interesting news today as far as the spread of the coronavirus. So notably, there's increasing evidence that the coronavirus has been here in the US for longer than we originally thought. So California Governor Gavin Newsom had ordered some autopsies on folks who had passed before we had reported cases. So cases dating to December. And we learned that 2 people in the state died of coronavirus in early and mid-February, up to 3 weeks before the first known US death from the virus. And in Indiana, too, officials are tracking cases going back to at least mid-February, which is weeks before the state announced its first case in early March. So, you know, looking at all that, we're seeing that researchers at Northeastern University estimated that on March 1st, while most of us were still thinking about this being something that was related to China and travel, they're estimating that thousands of people in the cities of New York, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, Seattle were silently infected with coronavirus without knowing it. And there was some new news out of New York today. So Governor Andrew Cuomo today stated that it's possible that 1 of every 5 New York City residents may have been exposed and infected with coronavirus. So this is from a random test of 3,000 people. So in that test, the results found that 13.9% of people statewide and 21% of people tested in New York City had antibodies for the virus. So these are preliminary results, but if the pattern holds with increased testing, there's the possibility that many New Yorkers, as many as 2.7 million, the governor said, who never knew they'd been infected, had already encountered the virus and recovered. So such wide infection might mean that the death rate was even far lower than believed. You know, we're always taking the rate of, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, because right now we're just taking the known cases and the mortality rate, which is
Right.
If you divide the two, you have a higher percentage. But if the cases were much higher than we ever even knew because of this, it turns out that, you know, maybe the 6 to 8x, you know, more deadly than the flu might not be quite as high as we thought it was.
Yeah, everyone's stressing that these are still preliminary results, so we'll continue to update you here as we get more information. So as the antibody tests go out wider in more areas, we'll get more data to be able to see if that is indeed the case. Talking back on the economy front, earlier today, the U.S. Department of Labor released new and updated data on unemployment claims. So more than 4.4 million individuals filed initial claims for unemployment last week. So it's a decrease from the previous week, but it brings the total nationally here in the US to approximately 26 million new claims over the last 5 weeks, which is roughly 7.8% of the entire US population, not just those of working age. I mean, just a truly staggering number of unemployed. And so in good news along those fronts, the federal stimulus package that we've been tracking really closely, the Senate voted for it earlier this week. The House today voted overwhelmingly to pass the legislation. So that is providing roughly $484 billion in coronavirus relief for small businesses. So this is the extension of the PPP program we've been talking about and the EIDL. And this bill also had hospital and medical testing funds in it as well. So it passed unanimously on Tuesday in the Senate, passed overwhelmingly today in the House, and it's now on the desk of President Trump, who's promised to sign it quickly into law. So this is the 4th coronavirus bill to move through Congress over the last 7 weeks, and this brings the total dollar response from the federal government to a whopping $2.8 trillion, by far the largest emergency relief effort in modern US history, and truly just astonishing.
Yeah, and that number sounds really high, obviously, compared to the GDP of the United States during any year is just above, 21 trillion or so. So still, 10% of that. If you think how many months we've just gone through, they're starting to line up, but there's still probably more room and more to come down the road. So just keep that in mind as you guys see these bills passing as well. One thing that I'd like to share also, given all that, is one thing that we've compiled here at Housecall Pro is what we call the Trades Health Index. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys here just so you can see. You guys will be able to have access to this. We'll post the link here. And today we just added something new, which is really cool, is you can actually sort by the state that you're in if we have enough data in that state. But what you see here is a trailing indicator and a leading indicator. Actually, we just swapped these around here. So we have the leading indicator and the trailing indicator here of how kind of the economy is doing across all the different trades. And this is the average amount of scheduled jobs per week. The blue line here, guys, is what it was in 2019. The red line here is what it is in 2020. So if you look at the difference between the two and you subtract them, you kind of get to see what the percent dip is. But just in this last week here, week 16, we see a spike up. So we see an improvement in both scheduled jobs as well as completed jobs. And as you can tell, and with our guests coming on here with Victor and Brooks and John are going to talk about it, you know, if we take a look at heating and air conditioning, which is definitely an essential service, we actually see it spiking above what it was in 2019. So this is looking really promising for some of the trades. And there's still some trades here that you know, are going to be struggling still for a little while, that are maybe a little bit lower. So if you guys want to take a look at this, we're going to post a link to the Trades Health Index. This is updated every single week. Obviously, we talk to a lot of pros. We see a lot of you guys asking like, hey, did you guys feel that there's like a little bit of an uptick of jobs here today? Well, you can come here to the Trades Index here and kind of confirm your own beliefs, because it's like an average across all of the different types of service providers that use our software. So we'll post that link here for you guys. Now we also have, this is the kind of the super secret special thing here, for joining today. We'll do this from time to time. Our designers are hard at work. We're always looking at figuring out ways that we can give back to you guys. And we've gotten a lot of people that are like, hey, I wish there were some badges and things that we could use to show our customers two things. One, that we're essential business, and two, that we've got our safety in place. So what I'm gonna share with you guys today here are these COVID-19 badges that we've created for you guys. And we've made them in all the sizes to make it super easy for you guys to share. Obviously, even before you start the sales process, having these things are actually going to help you a lot in winning some of these jobs and alleviating maybe some of the fears that the homeowners might have that you might be walking into. So in this case, we have just the generic badges here that are transparent. We have the ones that you can put on a Facebook post. So you guys see there's room here on the side for your guys' logo. So you guys can really easily drop your guys' logo into these things here, both for the Facebook posts, as well as for Instagram, if you guys are doing stories. And so we've created these for you guys, super easy to share. If you guys want access to these, it's really, really easy. What I've done is built a little text thing that says, hey, if you text the word files, okay, if you text the word files to 31996, it'll actually send you a link. The link that it's going to send you to is going to be our Google Drive where all these files are. So if you want access to all these badges so you can quickly use them, for all you guys that are watching, hopefully you guys get some use out of this, some value out of them. All you got to do here, and we're going to put this in the chat as well, but just text files to 31996. That's all you got to do. The auto reply will send you a link directly to the Google Drive. You can download it there. You can send it to yourself. You can send it to your designer. You can go print them out. You can put them on your truck, all kinds of fun stuff. And later on this week, we're going to announce a little contest here where the first 5 people to post a picture of these stickers on their trucks to start having transparent kind of open communication already with your customers by having them on your trucks. The first 5 are actually going to ship some hats too, but we're going to post the contest details here. For now, just go ahead and just do this. Files to 31996, and then we'll send you those files that we created for you.
Yeah, and I'll post that link again at the end. Adding on to what Roland was saying, this was something that was requested to us when this whole thing started, and our designers have been working on it because we knew it had to be something that was really legit. Even here in San Diego, I'm seeing service trucks just printing out a piece of paper on Microsoft Word that says essential services and putting it in their windshield. So that's what we expect for these to be used first. For those Instagram and Facebook images, we had a past evening update where we went over how to use Canva. You can upload these in there and you can upload your logo onto it. And if you need any feedback on what it looks like, post it in the group, tag us. We're more than happy to give you some feedback on it. And I'll continue to post that link throughout just so you guys still have it fresh. So that was your state of the world. That was your bonus for joining us tonight. Like we always say, it's great seeing all these regular names here to the point where it's just like we hang out every day. We're all friends. So make sure you text that to text files to 31996. So thank you, Mel, for our state of the world. I'm going to bring it back on our 3 guests tonight. They can unmute and start video. Where's Victor? There he is.
Hello guys, how you doing?
Okay, so I'm just gonna give Victor a little introduction. I'm gonna walk you through how this segment is going to work, and then I'm gonna pass it off to Brooks and Janelle. So Victor is the owner of Absolute Airflow Plumbing, Heating and Air in Orange County. He's also the owner of Service Hero Marketing. He's been featured on the HVAC Uncensored podcast. He's been featured 3 times on HVAC Masters of the Hustle podcast, and he was voted top 40 under 40 HVAC contractors. So the structure of the segment, we're really just talking the basics of building a sales program and why that's more important than ever right now. So whether you are an owner operator, you're the CEO of one, or you have a 50 truck operation, we're walking you through how to create a sales script, training, and the mindset to have. So part 1, Brooks and Janelle are going to go through the basics, which is script, training, mindset, and how to measure it. And then we're going to level it up with Victor in part 2. He's going to be sharing his top selling strategies and give a live demo of an estimate that works for him. He has the numbers to back it up. So what he's telling you works for him, and there's no reason it shouldn't work for you. So that's something I want to drive home right now before getting off the screen, is just because Victor is in HVAC does not mean that his selling techniques and what him, Janelle, and Brooks are sharing with you tonight are not applicable to you. It is applicable to companies of every single size and of all different industries. So keep that in mind tonight. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Brooks, Janelle, and Victor, and I'll be back at the end to ask them any cute questions that you have. Make sure you put them in the Q&A.
Thanks, Alexa.
Alexa, thank you. That was awesome. Mel and Roland as well. Great update. So I'll say a couple of things, and then Janelle's going to really lead this whole session, really because she's the best salesperson I've ever met, and I pale in comparison, so she's got a lot more knowledge that she can impart. But I have a lot of enthusiasm, if nothing else. I love selling. And selling is probably the most unnatural thing short of going to war and putting yourself in front of harm's way. Like, selling just terrifies people. And the reason why is that you have to stand in the face of no all day long. And people, humans, just turns out don't like rejection all that much. So the remarkable thing about salespeople, and the reason why I think they get paid quite well in many cases, because they're willing to do that unnatural thing. They're willing to put themselves in the path of no all day long. But the secret to this, at least for me, and I can't wait to hear what Janelle and Victor have to say about this, but for me, learning to sell was about overcoming fear. It's hard for people to imagine, I used to be an introvert, quietest, most nerdy, introverted, book reading geek out there in the world. I just hated the idea of having a conversation. Nowadays, you can't shut me up. So that metamorphosis is really just because I committed to asking a lot of questions. I committed myself to the idea of being curious and being relentless, and then my commitment to building a muscle. And I really think that learning to sell is a muscle that you have to develop. And if you're willing to go do that workout every day and train yourself and be disciplined about it, you can become a world-class salesperson. And just takes time. So I love to sell. Have curiosity, be disciplined about it, be relentless about it, and you get to a great outcome. So today, we'll take you through some of the basics, like basically think about sales 101. Why does it matter? How do you do it? How do you measure it? And then Victor, who is a true black belt in selling in the trades, will take us kind of through the college level, PhD level course. Janelle and I are going to start kind of elementary school level and see how that goes. So Janelle, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll just chip in for the cheap seats. Is that fair?
Hey, Janelle sold me on Housecall, so.
Yeah, she did.
Yes, I did. I remember that day. Thank you, Brooks. So first of all, I just want to, just acknowledge something that I think probably all of us are thinking, but sales is hard, right? As Brooks was saying, it is not a natural thing that people tend to gravitate towards. Unlike Brooks, I was not an introvert ever, but I knew that I really enjoyed being around people. And I also really think that when you're passionate about something, at least for me, it doesn't become selling anymore. right? So all of you clearly have a leg up on a lot of people in that you have passion behind what you're doing already. I mean, you went out and did the hard thing to start your own business. You did that for a reason, whether it's your family or you knew that you could serve your customers better, whatever that reason was. I really suggest tapping back into that and just connecting to why you're doing what you're doing, and really get to that reason. Because once you have, you know, something that you can buy into and something that you're passionate about and you agree with, and that you feel good about, selling is easy, right? It's less of a repetitive forced motion, but more just your passion and your knowledge and your communication skills really just take over. So I think that's what made me successful so far. I've never sold a product that I didn't believe in. That's always my first, check of the box is, do I believe in the product? Can I get behind it? And does it help people? And Housecall definitely, I mean, that was my number one reason for getting involved, is just, I can help so many different people on a day-to-day basis. And I think when I was probably hooked when someone once told me that I saved their marriage because his garage was no longer filled with boxes of paper invoices because his wife was threatening to kick him out of the house because she couldn't park in the garage. And so I think from that moment on, I realized that this was really helping someone. So I just wanted to acknowledge that sales is hard, but you guys already have a big step above everybody else in that you're truly passionate and you believe in what you do, which is one of the most important things. Now, as Brooks was saying also, right, sales it truly is a muscle. Like you have to practice it all the time, and you're going to get bored with what you're selling sometimes, right? You'll get tired of hearing your own voice. And so it's really important to not be scared to change it up, right? Listen to yourself, watch yourself on video or on the phone, record yourself even. Which is a very hard thing to do. You have to get past not liking to hear yourself or to see yourself. But that's a really good way to practice on your own. So you'll have to keep it fresh as well, but it is really a muscle that you work on every single day. And the more that you're working on, you know, your own craft, the easier it makes training your employees, because you're always paying attention to what's working or what's not. So going down the list, we're going to start really with three main ideas, right? So the first one being is you have to know your customer, right? And most of you at one point or another were in front of your customers. Think back to the day, or maybe you're still an owner operator, right? And you just spend so much time talking to your customers. You know where they live, you know what foods they like, you know what products they would gravitate towards, how much money they make, what kind of house they live in. So the first step is really just to understand your customer. And I think that goes back to Brooks's idea of curiosity, right? You just have to never stop asking questions. In fact, I think when I demoed Victor in the beginning, he even asked me if we could skip the questions and just get to the product. And I told him no, because the questions were very important, because I needed to understand him. I needed to understand how his business was running, what bottlenecks he was coming across, how many employees he had. So I really just ask a ton of questions, and you just naturally have to be curious to understand who your customer is. And then once you understand, or you feel like you understand who your customers are, then it's really time to think about how you're going to talk to them, right? What are you going to say? And where do you even start with that? And so to give you an example, when I transitioned to Housecall, I was in a very corporate environment before this, where it was very professional. I wore a dress and heels, and I had to speak a certain way. And then I understood that Housecall customers were no longer, the suit and tie, very, very, proper, strict type of customers, right? I could have fun with you guys. I could be myself. We could really talk about your kids and your families and your, vacations. And so that really molded the questions that I ask, or the tone that I take. And so you want to take all of those things into account, and that might change customer to customer or home to home, right? You have to be able to adapt to those customers and be able to, pivot your tone or the things that you're presenting to them, right? So what I do, and I even did this for this webinar, is Brooks is going to make fun of me, but I always write down what I'm going to say, right? I mean, this is my outline for tonight.
That is the gospel truth.
I know, it is, you hate it, but when you write something.
No, I think it's awesome, actually, because you're always prepared. You always know what you want to say, and you can't get rattled that way. And you're not making it up as you go. You've tested that message. You write it down, and you'll practice it, right?
Definitely. So, I mean, even, before this, my husband's like, what are you doing? You're so quiet. I'm like, oh, I'm just writing down how I'm going to approach it. He's like, no, just, you got it, go. But I never do that. I mean, even when I'm going into a demo to one of you, I write down all the things that I know about your business. I write down everything that I can possibly gather before the call. That way I'm going to be prepared and I know how I'm going to structure my sale or my demo. Because like Brooke said, it's not one of those things where you just walk up and you wing it. You have to be prepared. But figuring out what you're going to say to your customers and really spending time in a quiet place, thinking about, for me, at least quiet, some of you might like noise, but thinking about exactly what, your customer needs or what they want, and then putting that into, you're going to just create like a basic script, and don't make it perfect, right? You're going to have scribbles and little doodles and stick figures, and you might spill your coffee on the paper or whatever. That's fine. Just get the thoughts onto paper, and then you'll really start to shuffle them around and organize them. Okay, so, and this should be done, by you. You're the one who knows your customers best, right? You run the business. And so then once you've got a basic framework of what you want to say, this is the hard part, okay? I get it. You have to practice out loud, right? So if you have cats, they're great listeners. You can practice to your cat all day, your dog, whatever it is. So I usually I don't ever start in the mirror, because that's really intimidating, but I do start just reading it out loud. Sometimes my husband is the one who has to put up with, the things that I'm practicing, but practice it, and then you'll hear how it sounds, and you'll probably make some changes. Then once you get past that, practice it in the mirror, right? Because your body language and how you're, looking at your customer, how you're using your hands, that is all gonna play into that script and really make it come to life. Right? You don't want to just read the script, right? You want to incorporate that into how you interact physically as well. So I know it's really hard, but practice your script while looking at yourself in a mirror, and you'll instantly see where you can inject little points of emphasis, or sometimes you want to, talk a little bit quieter if it's a more intimate conversation, or if it's more sensitive information. So really just start to get to know yourself as a salesperson, and you'll know after a few days or a few go-arounds if you've got the right script, right? So once you have your script created, and I'll just say this because I know Brooks is probably thinking it, as every salesperson you'll probably come across at one point or another, they're gonna fight you on the script. Inserting a script is a very tough idea for a salesperson to digest, because we like to think that we have, an artistry to our sale, and that we are going to have our own little touches, and our personality should shine through. These are some of the things that you're going to hear from your people when you implement a script, right? So just be prepared for that.
And look, I mean, everybody wants to be Picasso, right? Or everybody wants to be Van Gogh and be some great artist in selling. I will tell you right now, I'll take science over art any day when it comes to selling. Know exactly what it is, the process that you want to use, what you're going to say. It doesn't mean that it stays that way forever. I bet Victor, and I know Janelle does this, you're constantly testing to improve it. Like, you're just trying to think about, how do I go from a 300 batting average to a 500 batting average, right? That changes everything. Well, you know how you get there? You build a way of communicating with the customer, and you keep looking for improvements, but then you always do it that way once you find a better path. And it's science, I promise you, because a critical part of this, and Janelle will talk about this in a second, is develop a script, optimize it, and measure the results, and always look for improvements. You can always get better all the time. But again, the artistry where you're just winging it, there are very few Picassos in the world. Most of us are just pretty average artists. So I'll take science any day. Victor, has that been your experience too?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing so if you go to one of my estimates and say you come in about 35 minutes and go no charge estimate, you're going to find me in the same exact spot I am every time I go 35 minutes in. You have to always have a baseline. So every time a customer answers the door, they're always going to try to take you off your baseline. You got to take friendly control and get back in line to where you need to be. So they might force you to go somewhere you don't want to go, but eventually, and as quickly as you can, you got to get back to your baseline so that you're making sure you're hitting all the certain spots along the way to make sure that that deal, everything you have to do is leading down a path to making a decision today. And that's how I operate.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And Janelle, we've gone through this so many times where, there are a couple of tips and tricks that you want to think about, right? You got to get the customer talking more than you're talking the first few minutes. That's science too. It just says that, look, if they can hear their own voice, they're going to like you that much more. It's a great, simple trick. Then get into your script. And if they try to take you off your game, your job, and when you get to be really good at this, and as Victor said, bring it back to the narrative, because you want to control the narrative, yet you want the customer to feel like they're in control of it. And you can work your way through your conversation with them, and then get to the conclusion at the end, but you're measuring the results all the way along the way. So Janelle, how did you go when you finally sort of adapt to that idea of taking a script and improving it? How did you get to better results over the longer term?
Yeah, so obviously you need to, you're going to be thinking about different things that may come, different products that you might be selling, or how the market is performing, right? Your sales pitch should be totally different today than it was 2 months ago. If you have the same script, or you have the same process now, you're doing yourself a disservice. So always, right, be measuring, even if it's just some hack way of keeping track of, hey, on, April 23rd, I started this new script. So I'm going to keep track of how many estimates I did and how many I closed from April 23rd to, let's say, 2 weeks from today, or a month maybe, right? And then you're going to look at previous to April 23rd and then after April 23rd. So it's just a matter of paying attention and really just being intentional about tracking your results to find out if it works or not, right? Because otherwise you're probably either going to talk yourself out of it, right? Or you might think that you're the greatest thing ever and this just works for everyone because you close a deal. And that happens a lot too, where you might develop some bad habits, but you close a few deals here and there, so you're under the assumption that it works, right? So you always want to center yourself back to what you originally set out to do and measure yourself against it.
I always find, especially right now, we got 99-degree weather tomorrow. And everybody can sell when it's hot out, right? But the thing is, when it's hot, everything comes super easy, super easy. You sell a bunch in a row, and then all of a sudden it's not hot anymore, and you're trying to do the same way you did when it's hot, and all of a sudden you can't sell anything. And it's because when it was easy, you change your process. Your process became quicker and faster, trying to get through it. And then you'll see all of a sudden you're like, what did I do? And then you have to go back and look at your script, like, what did I cut out? What am I missing here? It's like baking a cake. You
Right.
got a couple of ingredients and it comes out like shit. So that's kind of how sales is. And once you get back to that baseline, you're like, oh shit, let me start again, start over. Even the best guys do it. The best guys in the country. I've been in the room with them, and I've sold with them, and I've seen how they act, and I'm one of them. And all of us, we're creatures of habit, but there's some things that will just, it's so easy today. I can go sell anything. And the same thing, man. I always have to bring myself back to that baseline.
Yep. And
that's the beauty of selling, though. It's really humbling, ultimately, though. When you start to get really full of yourself, it'll just bring you right back down to your roots. Like, God, I can't hit anything for the life of me. And all of a sudden, you're like, okay, back to the basics, back to the thing that got me to success. Is that what you're going to say, Janelle? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
What I was going to say is look, you have to embrace the idea that sales, it's really cheesy and you're going to hear it all the time, but it truly is peaks and valleys. And those valleys are deep. Yeah. Like, you will go to places that you didn't even know you could go, and you have to do anything to get yourself out of it. So when you do get to those valleys, that's when I start to change it up, right? I'll listen to, my demo, and I'll just, I'm going to change up my story. I'm going to tell a different story, or I'm going to approach the intro of the first 15 minutes. I'm going to ask a different question to see if I can just find anything to grasp onto, because just as quickly or as low as that valley is, as soon as you find a little nugget, right, and you hear it in the customer's voice, or you can feel it, you grasp onto that and you start climbing your way out, and you just keep finding those little bits. But you have to pay attention to what you're doing to know why you may be in a valley or what you need to change up. The worst thing you can do is just go down in the valley and be like, well, I guess I'm just bad at sales, so I'm going to stop doing it, right? It's up to you, and you're the only person who can get you out of that. So change it up, tell a different joke, ask a different question, right? Anything, right? And that goes with—
Stay true to the structure, right? I think of, like, if you start to vary too much, let's just go back to the base. Let's kind of recap what we're going to do. I do want to ask, if you don't mind, I want to ask Victor about some of his thinking on this too, to make sure we're staying our windows of time. But the basics there are, what I heard from you is you have to want to be a salesperson and realize it's part of your, if maybe part of your job you have to be. Well, no matter what, how you get there, you got to go work at it, right? You got to put an investment to get the payback on it. You got to go do the work. You have to go do the training to build that muscle up. So be committed to the idea of becoming a salesperson, and anybody can learn to sell. If I can, I promise you, you can too. Then I heard you say that you got to bring some structure and some science to it, develop a script. It'll help you gain some confidence too. And then the third thing I think that was my big takeaway was measure everything to figure out how to get to better in the next month cycle. Is that kind of the core of your philosophy?
Definitely. And sales is all about confidence. So the more that you practice, the more confident you get with it. And then it just becomes second nature. So I promise in the beginning, it will feel really weird and awkward. And you'll probably want to close your eyes and just not look at yourself. But build that confidence with yourself and you'll start to stand a little different and you approach customers different and your tone of voice is different. And I also just want to offer up, if any of you need help with sales or you just want to pick my brain or talk about sales, I am totally open to that. By no means do I have all the answers, but I just have a lot of experience. And so hopefully, you know, I can help you. But, you know, sales is hard and you have to be committed to that idea. But it's really the companies that we see that are, you know, far above the others, that they have figured out how to teach their team how to sell, and they do it really well.
I think one of the biggest things, and what I've done in the past, I mean, it's like a slump buster. You know, you go through a couple days, you don't make a sale, you got to do something, right? And I always teach this to my organization, it's my guys, is practice winning all the time, no matter what it is. I don't care if it's a big sale or small sale. Sometimes I might lose on the sale. I don't make very much money, whatever it is. It's a mindset all the time that my guys, when they walk in the house, they think that there's nobody else that's ever going to be better than them. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to buy from my company. And that's something you guys have to push through your organization. From the second my guys walk in the door, they know we're the best. We talk about being the best. All we do is every single day we're practicing and role playing because we are the freaking best. And once you get that,
that's the psychology, right, Victor? Like that's the psychology of a salesperson, to do that unnatural thing. I'll tell you a quick story on this one, right? I don't know if you do something like this, but I remember I used to say to myself before I went into every pitch, I'm a great salesman. And I'd say it louder. I go, I'm a great salesman. And by the time I'd be like, I'm a great salesman, I'd be yelling it to myself. People thought I was batshit crazy for sure. But it gets you in that state of mind. It gets you in the psychology of winning so that you can go in there and do it, you know, offer this great service to your customer and get the win for the company. Like, do you do stuff like that in your company as well? I'm curious. I love that mindset thing and the way you talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody, like literally I have the bottom guy to the top guy, and I like to bring my bottom guy, I want to surround him by the best guys all the time. So the organization that I came up with is the biggest organization in Southern California. But I got thrown into this room with these guys that have been doing this for years. And how do you compete with these guys? Well, you listen to them, practice, you see their mannerisms, you see all the things that they say. And then it's like one of those things, you start surrounding yourself by the best, you become those people. You surround yourself by who you become who you surround yourself with. And I think that was been one of the biggest things in my career, is having the opportunity to be in the room with some of the best guys in the country. I mean, literally the room I was in had 7 of the top 10 sales guys in the country at one point. Wow. And I had to come compete with these guys, and I'm the young guy that's, you know, just learned heating and air conditioning a couple of years ago. And now I'm trying to compete with these guys that are trained professionals, and all they do and when you meet these people, you see what the different level of sales is. You know, there's the guy that thinks he wants to be sales. Then there's a guy that eats, breathes, and that's all he does all day long is sales, and he's the best, and he thinks he's the best, and when you walk around, you can see that he's the best, you know? And I think that a lot of guys, it's hard to have that confidence unless you've been around it and you've experienced and you got to see that. And I think it's big, and it's something that I do offer too. I have a lot of guys all over the country. I talk to them every day. They call me in the morning just to motivate them, to say, hey, dude, you're the best. We're going to do this. This is what you're going to do. Do this, this, and this, and you're going to make a deal today. So
that's awesome.
It definitely changes yourself. You got to get out of the mindset that sales is bad. And I tell my guys in my company, I'm a sales and marketing company that happens to do HVAC. Period.
It's a great mindset. So what do you do, Victor, when I'm a small shop and I am a technician and I take so much pride in the work that I do? Like, I'm technically really competent. I can solve anything that needs to be solved mechanically, yet I haven't developed this sales skill because I may not think I need to. How do you get someone to acknowledge that, you know what, it's really hard for most customers to actually understand the technical skill you have. Like, electrician, the light goes on, it doesn't. That's about as much as I know, right? If the hot air is blowing it's supposed to, or the cold air is coming on when it's supposed to, that's about as much as I know. If not, I call you. So how do you get someone who takes a lot of confidence around their technical skills and get them to embrace the idea of becoming a great salesperson? I really don't think you can build a great business unless you do have a great sales motion. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, I think that's one of the hardest things to do is to teach a technician to sell. It's one of those things that, they're the fix-it guy, and you have to get it through their head that they always feel like, hitting there, they always feel like, I'm Superman. I fixed it. I fixed it today, and I'm the best because I fixed it. And then you realize, 3 months later, the thing's broken down again. So you have to, if I'm a business owner, I'm going to bring the guys in and I'm going to explain to them, the true cost of ownership, stuff like that. So I think it's going to start from the business owner. The business owner has to decide they're going to be a sales organization. And if they don't decide that, they might last for a couple of years and weeble and wobble, and then where are they going to go? Because without sales, you cannot grow it. You can't grow and scale a business. So you have to learn you have to teach that.
And Victor, that's true whether you're a big HVAC shop or whether you're a handyman, a one-person handyman outfit, or a three-person home cleaning shop or a carpet cleaning shop. It's still that same mindset, right?
Yeah, and I the company I came from got beat up all the time. Oh, you guys are rip-offs. You guys are so much. No, we charge what we have to charge to offer the best possible product, the best possible service, and to provide everything that we have. You have to charge the right price. Everybody only looks, as a business owner, you only look at this one job made me, I made 50% margins on it. You're not thinking about all the other stuff that went into to get that job. Oh, I just paid for materials and the time there, and that's all I paid for. But what about your insurance, your overhead, your marketing? How do you grow this thing if you don't have any money coming in? So it's one of those things that you have to get out of that mindset and think like, okay, what does my customer want? Does my customer want to be able to have a full-time warranty tech? Like my company has full-time warranty techs because we charge enough to be able to offer that service, right?
Mm-hmm. Smart. Okay, so for you, you got to be commitment from the top. What I think I heard from you, commitment from the top, that the owner, the general manager, depending on how big a shop it is, they have to be committed to selling in an ethical way.
100%.
Yet committed to selling. And when you think about selling, what do you think about? You thinking about trying to get the biggest ticket? You're trying to think about to get margin? You're trying to think about how to get that repeat customer? Like, what's your objective when you think about selling?
It's the best possible price while creating a lifelong customer. So there's a price
gap where
and there's a point where, this is what it costs for me to run this organization the proper way and do everything the right way, where I'm making enough money to support myself, my family, and my employees. And you got to find out where that number is. I worked at a place where, they were exorbitant amount of money, but they had to charge that to offer what they were doing because they're so big. So every company is going to be different. You just got to figure out where that happy medium is, where you feel comfortable, because I have to go home and have to sleep at night. I want to make sure that I'm not doing anything wrong with customers.
Right.
I think one thing there I'll add is just don't cut yourself short, right? Understand that your service or your product is so valuable, right? And embrace that and know that and understand that you're helping people and that means something. So, sometimes it can be a little scary asking for, or selling the higher package or a higher item or product, but just have the confidence and really, work that into your confidence that that you have a valuable product and it should cost that much.
So when people buy from people they like and trust, right? And one of the things I learned from my mentor from way early on is sales is the transfer of beliefs. If you believe you're the best, the customer is going to believe you're the best, and you have to communicate it. And that's how you come across and make a deal. If you don't believe in yourself, your product, or whatever you're offering, you're never going to be able to transfer that on to somebody else, right?
Yeah, that's so true. You do have to believe it. All right. Any other? I think we have about 5 minutes until Q&A. I think that's about right. So, Victor, what else do you want our crowd to, the audience to really take away today? Are there top 2-3 things you really want them to think about?
Think about what kind of organization you want. I mean, most of the people in here are going to be business owners, correct? So you got to think about what you want. Set a goal for what you want and set a date for it, right? So if you don't put a date on anything, it's never going to happen. So, hey, by this date, I want to have my guys trained on this, this, and this. And every industry is going to be different, right? So you might have, the carpet cleaners, whatever they are. Figure out who the best in that industry is and their best process. And you go out as a business owner and you say, hey, come in and help my organization and teach me what I have to do. Because you need a mentor. If you don't have a mentor in this industry or any industry, it's going to kick you in the butt, right? So figure out who that guy is and then create a process. I have a sales process for every different thing that we go, from a no charge estimate to a tune-up to a repair call. I have a process for all of it, and then I have books in place to where it makes it easy for my guys to sell. As a business owner, you have to put every possible tool in front of your employee to make that deal that day and at the highest possible price you can, right? So you can stay in business. So it's going to come down to those things to take care of your employees first, they can take care of your customers.
Right. Don't
As far as the mentor,
try to race to the. Oh, sorry.
I just
Go
wanted to add, yes, find a mentor who does it better than you, and just put your pride aside, which is hard, and just ask them a ton of questions, right? I mean, as soon as Brooks got to Housecall Pro, I understood that he was a better salesperson than me. And so every Saturday I would go in, I would work on Saturdays just because I knew he would be there and I wanted him to listen to my calls. So find somebody who is a mentor and who can do it really well, or who does do it well, and just have them help you. Ask for help. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah, I will tell you, like, you don't need to write the playbook yourself. All you have to do is go be around someone that's already developed the playbook that's great, and then model after that behavior. Like, there's so many shortcuts in the world that are good, constructive shortcuts. It means you don't have to innovate the whole thing yourself. Go figure out the model that works for you. Victor, you had great mentors. You've already seen a good playbook. You then been able to adapt it and put it into your business, or adopt it and then adapt it as well within your business. And there you are. You find yourself at this extraordinary level of success momentum, right?
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, I've only been doing heating and air conditioning for 5 years. I didn't even know what HVAC stood for 5 years ago in March. So it's one of those things.
Insane.
I'm a freaking sponge, and I want to get better every single day. And one of the things literally the first day I rode with somebody, he said something that stuck with me, right? If I have to leave my wife, my kids, and my family, my family, and go to work, I'm going to make the most possible money that anybody can possibly make with what the calls that I'm doing, right? So, and most customers don't care that we're breathing nasty stuff in their attic. They don't care about the chemicals that you're cleaning with them, carpet cleaning. They don't care about you and your family. So you got to understand, like, you're trying to discount it down to take care of them, but at the end of it, you're taking it out of your own pocket to give them that money. So
Yeah,
I don't.
That's a good point.
I don't go to work to make less money than that's humanly possible.
Yeah. Here's the other thing I'll say is just another secret here, or just tip, is that if you're great at the technical work, you probably have a good shot at getting a job. If you're a great salesperson, I can drop you into Russia and you would figure out how to make money within a month. Right? It's an unbelievable life skill. So if we all have this growth mindset, we always have the learning mindset to get better every day. And people show up for this kind of a webinar or this kind of a broadcast that are investing in their own growth. That is the person that has that mindset, right? And so here's a challenge we'll put to you, is that take sales on, even if it makes you uncomfortable, and get great at that skill, because it'll make you better in conversation. You'll be able to talk to your significant other better, your kids better, your neighbors, people at church. You'll be able to you can go create money anywhere you go if you can learn how to sell, right? You'll always have a job, because there are never enough great salespeople in the world. So it's an unbelievable life skill.
That's why I'm not scared to lose. I already know someone will hire me tomorrow if I fail.
That's exactly right.
Scared to lose.
All right, Janelle, how about you? Is there I know we're going to go to Q&A here in a second. Is there one other thought, that something you heard that Victor said that really resonated with you?
I honestly, I feel like the mentor. Every sales job that I've had, I always just found the best person in the business at that thing. And I just positioned myself right next to that person. In fact, I think I even moved my desk next to Brooks at one point.
You did.
Yeah.
I just forced my way in because I knew that I could learn something from him and he could probably help me. So just find that person, tap into your network. Ask people if you can sit in on their sales calls or ride along with them. Take an afternoon to invest in yourself and do that. And then go back and go back to your drawing board and write it out. But have a mentor and make it your goal to do it better than them.
I remember I came off one of my biggest months ever, and I think I sold $4.2 million. And the first week after that month, I took that week to go ride with somebody I thought was better than me. And I took the pay cut because I've been begging to ride with this guy. And finally, after a year, he said, "Okay, you can ride with me." I said, "I don't give a shit what's going on. I'm going to go ride with this guy because I want to see what he's doing." That's separating him. And sometimes all it takes is that one little tweak in your sales process or anything. And that's what I always tell people. I'm not great at one thing. I'm great at a bunch of little things. And I've taken all those little things from other people. I didn't recreate the wheel. I just learned how to use those little pieces of the wheel and put it together and make my own wheel.
Yeah, that is all. You don't have to invent the playbook. I think that's what they have so much fear, is that they got to make this stuff up. You don't. There's a science to it. There's somebody better than you at it. Just go study them. I remember I used to listen to podcasts and CDs back in the day on my way to work, right? And just listen to it from the greats, because the greats are there. You can read about them, you can listen to them. Just get a great mentor and follow their path. And then to your point, find those little things, like those little kernels that are just perfect for you, and great things will happen. So that's really good insight. Alexa, do you want us to go to Q&A now? Is that the idea?
I do, and I'm actually really excited for the Q&A. Every single one of these questions I think we're going to be able to answer, because I think you three can offer some great advice on each, and Mel and I are just going to go back and forth. If you guys are still here, I hope Janelle, Brooks, Victor, you have no issue going through these, even if we go a little bit over time. I think they're all great questions. So
Alexa, you're talking to 3 salespeople. I think you'll be okay.
You guys keep
you can't get us to stop talking.
I know. And for the record, I did the same thing to Roland as you did to Brooks. I've wedged my way in, and look where I am now.
Yeah, we're separate. Yeah, now I have to listen to Janelle to learn the tips and tricks, right? I'm like, she's going full circle around where I have to go sit on her demo to like, God, that's so good what she does there. And I write it down and I go practice it quietly so she doesn't know I'm practicing it. So yeah, it all comes full circle.
I want to tell you guys one thing. The world has not fallen off, because I have just had the busiest phone ringing day of my entire business's existence. I had to literally, if you look at my phone, I freaking unplugged the freaking phone. So I thought in the call center. So the world has not given up on this on an essential business.
Here.
Keep that, you guys.
That is awesome. It's inspiring.
Well, you holding that phone is actually a great question to start on, and Mel will probably jump around, but the first one from Craig Manila. Do you have any tips specific to phone sales?
To phone sales?
Talking to the
first, because I came from outside sales, where I would go talk to people much like you guys do, right? And so you could create a different type of relationship when you're in front of a customer. And so transitioning to Housecall, which was all phone sales, I'd never done that before. So I think one of the best tips that I got was slow down. When you're on the phone, you tend to, kind of run your words together, and maybe you're not speaking as clearly. So make sure that you pause, you give people a chance to digest the information you just gave them, and then go ahead and continue from there. So pause, slow down. And then I think the other part of it is your tone has to be even more exaggerated when you're excited or when you want to talk quiet. And you need, because it doesn't come across, because they can't see you doing all of this, right? So your voice really has to have range in it to where you can, change up your tone and make them feel that over the phone.
I think one of the biggest things, I started in sales when I was 17. I worked as in a loan modification office, and most of it was cold calling or outbound calling and trying to sell people. And one of the things I found is just stop talking about what you're selling. Don't even freaking talk about it. I would be sometimes 30 minutes into a conversation before I even brought up what I was talking about. And people want to know your story. So you can't physically be there. You have to be able to transfer your beliefs right onto them. So if they start trusting you, you start halfway through, then you might got a family, a dog, or whatever the hell is going on in my life. And then they're all of a sudden like, hey, let's get back to what we were talking about. And once you get comfortable with that, and I teach that in my call center. So my call center answers the phone. I expect them to be on the phone for a certain amount of time, because if you aren't on the phone for 8 minutes, that means you didn't break bread with them, right? You didn't learn about that customer before you started trying to get someone out there in front of them. It all starts at the call center. And I guess if you're trying to sell it over the phone because of COVID-19, that does help drastically.
Yeah, the thing, whether it's in person or even more so on the phone, people buy from people, right? I mean, they're buying from a human being. And so to Janelle and Victor's point, you got to connect with them. And usually that means, and I think in the first few minutes, asking more questions over and over, flexing your curiosity, and get the customer talking, let them hear the sound of their own voice, build a rapport with them. And then it's easy to transition into, okay, hey, I'm going to share some information with you. And look, if you like what you hear today, ideally, you'll want to buy what we're providing, and here's my service, right? And you let them know that the close is going to come at the end. You take the pressure off at that point. Once you have rapport, you can transition into the explanation of your service or your estimate. Then you have the ask at the end, and it becomes a seamless process. But it all starts with building rapport and asking a bunch of questions to get them to talk up front. I love that you actually have a measured amount of time, Victor, that you think about to qualify that experience. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's those are the little details of the business owner that you don't think about, but when you really quantify it in the long term, you'll see your success goes up drastically. Everyone thinks I'll just put the $14 an hour person in the call center, but that's the first touch of a customer. The first thing they're going to hear is that person that's answering the phone, whether it's you or the call center rep. You have to give them that experience from the second they answer the phone. So when my call center rep answers the phone, it's an amazing day at Absolute Airflow. This is Victor. How can I make you smile? So it changes their tone. You cannot say that without someone smiling over the phone. It's just, it's human nature. But these are things that I've caught on through mentors and stuff like that, and then implement in my business.
That's another one. Smile on the phone.
You can actually see it through the phone, can't you?
Yes, they can hear when you smile.
I've got a question. This is from Adam Wilkerson. So we talked about building a script, and Janelle, I know you've done a ton of this at Housecall, and I had the pleasure of working with Janelle. She came over and worked solely in a training position for us for a good while. And she actually would do a thing where people would go work on their script and then come back, and she would have them perform it, sort of AKA the voice, where they would turn around and then listen to the pitch as if they were on the phone, because you can't get all the extra, enhancement of seeing the person, and then they would turn around and swirl their chairs around and give feedback. So, but what's the process to building a script? You talked about practicing a script, but let's say I don't have anything. I don't even know what I've been doing. Where do I start? How do I actually start to build a script for my company?
On a phone script, or are you talking a script like in-home script?
Yeah, well, whatever your sale is. If your sale is a phone sale, if your sale is an in-home, just how do you start the script that you need to be able to start getting better every day?
First thing you do is figure out what your end goal is, and you have to reverse engineer it, right? So everything you do, how am I going to get this person? So if I'm a heating and air conditioning, how am I going to get this guy to understand that why I have to charge more than everybody else, and what is my end goal of selling? So you figure out what you got to sell first, and then you start working your way backwards. What makes someone want to buy your product? Okay, why do they want to buy your product? And how do I get them along the way in my sales process to understand that I'm going to do all those things and close all those doors for them before I get to the end? So it really starts with figuring out what your product is, what's your bread and butter, and breaking down exactly the objections that they can possibly have, right? You have to figure out, what are they going to tell me at the end that they always freaking tell me? They always tell me I got to think about it. They always tell me it's too much. They always tell me this. Okay, well, along the way, how am I going to create them in their mind to think that, hey, my service is worth this much? They don't have to answer those questions. They don't have to ask those questions at the end. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but if you start from there and you work your way back, it kind of helps.
Yeah, I approach it the same way. I tend to think about it less about my product in the beginning and more about how I want them to react to me, right? Because remember, Victor said in the beginning, people buy from people. So how do I want them to react, and how do I want them to feel at the end of this with me? And then that will give you kind of like your tone, or how you want to say certain words, or whatever that is, right? Because you will leave an impression. It's going to be good or it's going to be bad. You have the choice. So you really have to decide what do you want that customer to feel, or how do you want them to feel about you or interpret you, and then work back from there, right? And you might have a couple of different scripts, right? You might have a really technical script because you have a really technical customer who's all about data, and he's going to stand over you and watch you, install whatever you're installing, wants to know every little bit. And then you might just have a customer who, wants to just chat and tell you about their dog and their vacation and that. So you have, more of a script for that. So I always approach it with, how do I want this customer, or how do I want my business to be represented and people to feel about me? And then I work backwards from there.
Mm-hmm. I actually have something to add to that. It's something Janelle taught me, because way back when Janelle taught me sales, we were doing upsell and cross-sell. So we were getting pros and coaching them to understand why they needed to upgrade to the next plan, because they were growing and they'd outgrown the smallest plan. And I remember in the script that we'd write, 'cause it was brand new, no one had done it before in our company. And I remember we would sit there and we would bold words that needed more emphasis, because we're doing phone sales. It's like phone consultation. So we would bold words. We'd even like drag out a word if it was like something that needed to be dragged out, like that, to provide more emphasis. So visually seeing that, as a visual learner, that is 100% what clicked with me when I stopped being so scared to be assertive and use a script and sell, because I'm like, okay, I know exactly how this is going to sound. I know exactly how they're going to respond to it. They're going to love it. So that would be another tip when actually physically writing your script. Okay, let's see here. This is a really good one from Sarah and Jason Meister. Advice on closing. We lack at closing and we don't close at all in person.
I'll take this one first.
These are fun.
Yeah, these are good ones. I could do this forever.
I'm excited when you said that one.
So
The only thing I do is sell in person. They don't buy when I'm there. They ain't buying.
it's seen as at the end, right? And so you build it up like, oh, you know it's coming. You know you're going to have to ask for money, and you build up this whole thing to that moment, right? And what I try to teach my salespeople is, if you're only starting to think about the close at the end, you've already done it wrong. The close starts 2 minutes after you walk in that door, right? I mean, you have that very short amount of time when you get there to establish a relationship, even if it's over video, whatever that is, that's when the close happens. So generally, when I hear people saying, I can't close, how do I close? You're putting too much pressure on that end result, when really you should be thinking about more of the process and how to get there, right? But the close really does happen, even on demos that I do with customers. I mean, they know in the first 10 minutes, right? And maybe they don't realize it in the first 2 minutes, but I know, right? But you get to a place that you've created and established a relationship with them, and that's really when the close happens, I promise you. So try to stop putting so much pressure or emphasis on the end of the call and focus all of your attention up front. Think of that first 10 minutes that you walk into a customer's house and put everything you have into that 10 minutes. And I bet you the results at the end will follow, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Victor. I'll go after you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, a lot of the sales process, the closing process, like she was saying, saying it doesn't happen at the table. It happens along the way, and that's part of the script, is closing every door before you get to the table. So they can't give me those objections if I already closed them, 30 minutes ago while I was in the hallway or wherever I was. So there's a reason for a script, and that's because every spot along the way, everything that comes out of my mouth is leading to where I want to go. It's leading to the close by saying, hey, this is why we do this way, and along the way. And I talk about it. By the time I'm at the end, they know I'm not going to be the cheapest, right? Because there's no possible way to be as good as I am, as thorough as I am, and be the cheapest. It doesn't happen. So, but that's because I asked the right things at the right time. So when I get to the end, I'm asking for the order. It's really not that complicated. It comes down to is it me? Is there something about me, my business, or my price? It's usually one of the three. Is it me? No. Is it my company? No. When you want to do business with us, then it's going to come down to price. And obviously I didn't explain it properly if it comes down to price.
So I like that you're leaving little breadcrumbs along the way. I think I go one step even beyond that, Victor, which is, look, people, if you're going to somebody's home or a phone-based call, they're worried about being closed. Like, everyone has that used car salesman mindset, like haunting them in the back of their mind. So I like to get that pressure out of the way right up front. And I like to declare that I'm going to ask you for your business at the end of this call. And hopefully I've shared so much information with you, it's an easy conclusion for you to make. But if you declare that early, it gives them permission to focus on everything you say after that. Versus a lot of customers will be distracted by the fear and the tension of that closing process, that they won't listen to a damn thing you're saying. So I just found that once you build some rapport, and then you kind of lay out how the rest of this conversation is going to go and say, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to walk you through all the key things you need to know about, and hopefully you'll see the value, and then I'm going to ask you for a business, and then it'll be up to you, right? And then you can do exactly what Victor said, which is show them step by step by step by step all the things that are incredibly valuable for them and the benefit they're going to get from working with someone like Victor, right? So relieve that pressure early on. They'll be able to focus on what you're saying, and it's a natural ask at the end. And I found that formula works incredibly well no matter what size contract you're going for in a deal.
One of the big things in in-home sales, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, carpet cleaning, plumbing, heating and air, is the second you get in that door, and a lot of guys make the huge mistake of going right to, heating and air, they go right to the heater, right to the air conditioner, or go right to that stain in the carpet, whatever it is. That's the last thing that I'm going to. The first thing I want to do is set the expectation, set the tone of what they expect today. So the first thing I've always done, I always say I'm Victor with Absolute Airflow, and blah, 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 I'm here for your estimate. And the first thing I'm going to do is get them at the table. I'm going to sit them down, and I'm going to set the expectation for the call early on. I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do. Hey, while I'm here, I'm going to teach you more about your house than you've ever known before. Are you okay with that? And I'm going to design a system that when it's 100 degrees outside, I can get it down to 70 degrees. That's something that would make sense, that you would like. Boom. And then you find out at that point, what are you looking to get out of this call today? You start asking these questions before you even talk about any of the going to the, I don't want to see shit. I got to know what they're about. I got to learn these people, where their head is. Hey, is this something you're looking to do today? Or you're just kicking the tire down the road. You're going to try to do it in a couple months. Because right now we have all these crazy specials. I just want to know what price to give you. And then it kind of says, oh, well, you know, we're trying to think about it, whatever the hell it is. Well, yeah, the price is right. Okay, well, if the price is right today and, you know, you like everything about me, can you give me a yes or no today? Yeah, I can do that.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. So that's already in the beginning of the call. And then I'm taking so much time going around each little thing. I'm a big show and tell guy. I'll hand him the paper. Hey, I'm going to go check some stuff. Can you write it down for me while I'm looking at it? You know, especially on the heating air side, I'll check at the heater, write it down. I have a crazy process that works. Like I sell so many estimates. Everybody hates estimates. I sell the shit out of them. So I say, hey, look, that guy that was here earlier, he was here, what, 30 minutes? He was probably selling windows and doors last week. Now he's trying to sell you heating and air conditioning. I'm a professional. It takes time to design these things and make it done right. But that's where you separate yourself, right?
Right. Well, I've got one other question that's come up in a couple of spots in the Q&A. JP from Chicago specifically, he's in heating and air conditioning. So we talked about mentors, and Janelle, we know you just cozy up to people at work and put yourself in between them and their space so that you can suck it all in. And Victor, you talked about doing a ride along after a successful week. But what if you don't have someone in your organization? What if you don't have someone who you can just go park your desk or your truck next to? How would each of you recommend just starting to try to find a mentor?
So for me, like social media is a beautiful thing. I've met some of my best friends now through social media, different business owners all over the country. So there's a lot of different groups for every trade. Everything has their own private groups, right? Well, get in the private group, start asking the questions, start learning about people and learning it. Hey, how do you guys go about this? And I think that's the easiest way, is to put yourself out there. And I think if anybody knows me, I put myself out there more than anybody else. If you follow me on social media, I am kind of a social media slut. I put my whole life out there so everybody gets to see what I do. But I run a group called HVAC Owners and Closers, and there all we talk about all day is all the things that are working all over the country. You know, everybody's post is always trying to figure out, hey, you know, is this working for you? Hey, this is going to change. You know, I was trying to warn people 2 weeks before the coronavirus hit them on the East Coast, or, you know, not on the East Coast, but like the Midwest, stuff like that. I'm like, hey, it's coming. Plan, switch your marketing, switch it up. So I think if you go on any of the social media platforms and look up your industry, you're going to find some great people. I always say, try not to go towards, like, if you're a HVAC owner, don't go to the tech groups, because you're going to get beat up, because those guys, they like to brutalize the owners in those groups. So go to other owner groups and stuff like that to find a mentor.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest our Facebook group is a great place to start. I mean, you guys already have that network of, 7,000 plus people doing what you do. So sometimes just asking for help is really just the biggest thing, but that's exactly why, we offer that network, is because, not everybody has an office staff or knows somebody who's really good, but through the Facebook group, I'd say that's a good place to start. And then, even if you're a little shy there and maybe you don't want to be so vulnerable and offering yourself up to, someone who does what you do, start reading or listening to podcasts and just start trial and error, right? You'll find salespeople writing sales books that you agree with and some that you definitely don't, and you'll know very quickly. And when you find one that you like, just start reading some more of their material. Not necessarily, I don't even read entire books, right? Oftentimes I'll just find the cliff notes, or I'll listen to a podcast and then I'll go find the cliff notes of a book, and I'll kind of piece it back together. So mentors don't always have to be someone on your same level. It can be someone that you look up to that you don't even know too.
I've read this book like 3 times now. If you guys get a chance to get this, called Consistency. This is by Weldon Long. I've read this book. It sits in my office. I read it all the time. There's so many different books. Obviously everything's at our fingertips now. You have the opportunity to learn as much or as little as you like. And I spent, like I said, I've only been in this industry for 5 years. Well, you couldn't tell that by talking to me or communicating to me, because I took so much time. My wife hated me. My first year in the business, I didn't do anything but go to work and then come home and learn how to get better at work, then go to work and be the best at work. And that's my attitude all the time, is I didn't want to beat the guys that were in my group. I wanted to figure out how the hell those guys are making $500,000 a year selling heating and air conditioning. If I don't figure out how the hell to get there, that's my fault. They figured it out. I want to figure that out. And then you'll find out how to do that through YouTube, through Facebook, through books, whatever it takes to get to that point.
Yeah, so you guys, you already are on to books. So we had a couple of questions, MD Snyder, Benjamin Perez, both asking what books would you recommend? So it can be selling, non-selling, just what books?
I would say the one that comes to my mind, and it's probably just because it's most recent, and this is after 8 years of sales experience. I'm still reading sales books. I was probably one of my valleys at that point. It's called The Challenger Sale, and it's pretty short. But it lets you, it really catered to my sales style. So I gravitated towards it after a couple of pages. But it really just gives you a framework to challenge your customer's train of thought or how they're going about making their decisions without necessarily sounding too abrupt, but just a very strategic, methodical way of doing it. So I like that one. And then Spin Selling is always a good book too. I like the short ones, so I never read big long sales books. I pick the shortest ones I like. So Spin Selling and The Challenger Sale are the two that I probably read the most.
I'm a big fan of Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
A classic.
That book kind of changed my life and how I go about stuff. And then there's another one called Unfork Your Business, and by one of my friends, Thomas Keenan, out in New York. And it talks about his mindset and how his business was running before. And then he said, pretty much F this, I'm going to burn this boat down and start fresh and take a different approach towards running a business. I thought that one was great. And then Scale with Speed. So if you know anything about, I don't really talk about my story, my business. We've been in business for 19 months. I got more trucks than months I've been in business. If you look outside my shop, I have 25 heating and air conditioning trucks, a couple plumbing trucks, and I'm still growing because I made that decision that I want to be the biggest and best thing out there. And that's because I made that decision how I want to run my organization. I want to be a sales organization, marketing organization.
And don't be afraid to ditch a book or ditch a podcast. If it's not clicking with you and it's not your style or not something that you would say, don't force it. Like, get rid of it, right? I can't tell you how many books that I picked up and I'm like, this guy's out of his mind. And I just, I did moved on to the next one. So don't be scared of that, right? Just, you'll know.
Yeah, whatever. If it doesn't stimulate your mind, just stop wasting your time. That's it. There's not enough time in the day, and if it's not making sense, just drop it. I should say.
Mm-hmm.
There's two books that I would recommend. Podcasts, I'm a big believer. I listen to a dozen different podcasts every week. At least I used to when I was driving. Now I don't drive so much. I got to figure out how to do that again. The Challenger Sale is a really good, quick read. It is 5 core principles to it. I like that one. And the other one is a book called Peak. And I give that to a lot of our salespeople. And it's about deliberate practice, measured practice. A lot of people are familiar with the 10,000 hours rule and that idea. This is really just an evolution of that, which says, like, look, if you want to be the best salesperson, if you want to have more trucks than you have months in business, you got to set that goal and you need to be deliberate about every day moving towards that objective. And the book Peak talks about how to get you there and how to measure the results. But that's how you get to great, in my, at least from my experience.
Put a date on it. Whatever the hell anything in life, if you put a date on it, then it becomes real. Otherwise, if you don't put a date on it, then it's just a dream and a pipe dream fantasy. You got to put a date on it and a plan of action in course, and that's every day. And you figure out how you're going to get to that, end goal. And I'm super goal oriented. I annoy the hell out of everybody because I know how many days and minutes it is till I have to hit my goal, and if I don't hit it, then I'm upset with myself.
What was that first book that you brought up that you keep in your office?
It's called Consistency Selling by Weldon Long. He's a mentor of mine. He was actually a sales manager of mine, but he started and sold some of the biggest heating and air conditioning businesses in the United States. And then he just started another business in Colorado, but he's really good. He's part of EGIA, which is a big group for heating and air conditioning contractors. He's the #1 sales trainer for them. But he's the same thing. He's a creature of habit, and he has a sales process down. And the book is all about consistency.
So we have one more question from Facebook. It's a short sales question, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. This is from Mario. Is it better to write the estimate in front of the customer or in the truck right away? What's your guys' viewpoints on this?
You guys want me to take this one?
I'm not an HVAC, but I know what I would do.
So most guys say you don't want to separate yourself from the customer, right? And that's true, but you also have to have a game plan. And I know we don't have time tonight, but I have an exact. I can, if anybody directs message me, I'll send you a video of my exact process on every single estimate. I made a video of it. It's got freaking captions on it. You can listen to it, whatever you want to do. And it's an exact process I do every time. But I like to, obviously you want to, I sell big tickets, right? I'm selling $30,000, $40,000 heating and air conditioning system. So I like to kind of game plan before I go inside. But I go inside and I'll go through my presentation, but I lead with the small thing first to kind of get their ideas, see if they're interested. If they're scared of the small part thing first, and then I'll lead up to the bigger part of the heating and air. But I do it all in front of them. I think that you have to have a little bit of mindset. You already have to, in your head, you got to know where those numbers are at, where you're leading towards. But you have to do it in front of them because you got to let them make the decision on everything they put in.
Awesome. What's your answer out of curiosity?
You want to, whatever you're selling, right? And let me just tell you, you guys are always selling, okay? Your husbands, wives, partners, friends, right? You're selling all the time. So this is a strategy that not just in business, but you want to strike while the iron's hot, right? While you've done the work to build all this value and create this relationship. And that's why, building an estimate or a proposal there while you've, just done that thing with that customer and you have that rapport line open, that's the best time to build that estimate and, essentially, win the business. It makes it really difficult when, the not only the physical space between you and the customer, but also just the mental space, right? Just gets further and further away. Your chances of selling or closing the deal go way down.
Mm-hmm. All right. So thank you guys for answering all those questions and thank this audience for asking such great questions. We answered pretty much all of them. This is something definitely we'll make a shorter segment of because the Q&A part of this was just off the chain. Other than that, Victor, thank you so much for joining us. We have a lot of pros asking how they can get a hold of you, how they can get this sales and estimate script.
So if you're a heating and air contractor, I run a private Facebook group called HVAC Owners and Closers. I also own a digital marketing company, Service Hero Consultants, where I also offer paid training. So if you guys would like to join that, you guys can sign up in there, and I offer training videos and all kinds of tutorials and courses. If you just want to pick my brain, I offer that for free. Obviously, my name is Victor Rancourt. You can see my name on the screen. Add me on Facebook and just ask me in the messenger. I know a lot of people can't afford to have a mentor they pay for. I don't really care. I answer my phone all the time, and I give free advice anytime you need it. So feel free to reach out, add me on Facebook. And like I said, if you guys are interested in marketing, we've been very, very successful all over the country during the COVID-19, surprisingly. Go to callservicehero.com and you can sign up for a Zoom meeting on that and see what that's all about.
Awesome. Thank you, Victor. He's also in our Facebook group, like you said. So thank you guys for a great week 6. What an awesome week for us. Next week, we have a great lineup for you on Monday. So remember, we do not do evening updates on Fridays anymore, but we are starting fresh on Monday. We have Lane Merrifield. He is a dragon on the Dragon's Den. So if you don't know what that is, think of the Canadian version of Shark Tank. So you guys know how we just had Mark Cuban on? This is like the Canadian version of him. And so we're really going to be talking about how to throw out this old pre-corona playbook and how to get back to good business basics. This guy, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but Club Penguin, he created all that. It's the first and largest social network for kids. Huge. And he sold it for like 350 million. I don't want to say it wrong, but he is super smart and he's here on Monday. So make sure you join us at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Other than that, we'll see you in the Facebook group. Thank you, Janelle, Brooks, Mel, and Victor. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Alexa.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, like I said, the world is not ending. The world's not ending.
The world isn't ending.
That's right.
Our services.
Be healthy.
Keep that mindset right, guys, and don't let it get you down, man. It got me down in the beginning. I thought I was going to lose everything at first. I was scared, and I decided to put my boots back on and make shit happen. So just keep your confidence and keep the course. I promise you, if you keep the course, it's got to work out.